What's up, cinephiles? For today's episode, we are going to review a Netflix anime. It's called A Whisker Away. It's directed by Junichi Sato and Tomotaka Shibayama.
So, A Whisker Away is all about a girl named Mio, or some of her friends call her Muge, a peculiar girl who transforms into a cat to catch her crush attention. But before she realizes it, the line between human and animals starts to blur. So, Kevin, what can you say about this movie?
I really appreciate the intended message here by Mari Akada, the writer. I think she's trying to tell a message about how some people, they hide underneath this energetic and seemingly positive personality, and but beneath that, we don't know what a person is struggling. There's an unseen depression that it takes many forms that you can't detect it in one person just by basing on her personality alone. This film, like, it sheds escapism as a solution, but in the long run, escapism is just really a short-term pill. You're going to wake up eventually, and you're going to face the consequences of your actions. So those are my main positive takeaways of the movie. But then again, its romance is not really its strongest suit. I've seen Makoto Shinkai's Your Name and Weathering With You, and this film won't really compete against those films. Both characters in those films are really fleshed, and it is only by the latter half of this movie that we get to learn her love interest, Hinode, has proper fleshing out to do, which personally I would have preferred this to be a coming-of-age story focused on Muge, but there we are. This is more fronted as a romance. I would just like to focus on the character here, Muge. She's head over heels over his high school crush, which seems kind of weird because if this is set in an elementary school, I would have understood more her behavior. But evidently, she has a low self-esteem. When this character really starts to show her affection and ways to show love, which both characters don't really know how to properly express here. There's a scene here where there's a cute move that she does. What you call it? It's like a sunrise surprise, when you hit the bomb of other person using your bomb, which is kind of cute when it's being done by kids. But when you're teens or you're adults, this is a low-key sexual harassment, And when the genders are reversed, this will spark more controversy. It's one thing to have a message being intended, and another thing to have an entire different message being perceived by the audience. One can look at the character of Muge as empowering, but when your character is being so annoying and having complete lack of personal space, she transforms into cat, and in effect she does that to do more stalking for Hinode. People might be distracted with what this movie is really trying to say, and it's a bit dangerous, yeah? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, first off, before I get to my main points, I want to give props to Studio Colorido. This is the same studio that brought Penguin Highway, an animated film from last year, which I really enjoyed. I have to give props to them because the animation of this film is still top-notch. It's not as beautiful as the films of, for instance, you mentioned Makoto Shinkai, but it's still a top-notch animated feature. As you know, Kevin, I am a big fan of Japanese animation. I enjoyed the movies of the legends like Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata. Those are the founders of Studio Ghibli. They made some really great films. The most recent ones by Makoto Shinkai or Mamoru Hosoda, the one who made The Boy and the Beast, and of course, again, Makoto Shinkai, we all know he made Your Name, Guardian of Words, and Weathering With You, all those. I love fantasy elements in a Japanese film. I love it when they tackle family issues. I also enjoy romance in these kinds of film. And this movie, A Whisker Away, has all of these. But surprisingly, I did not like this movie at all. Why did I not like this movie? Well, first off, I mentioned love, family, fantasy. It didn't particularly do anything of it well. For instance, let's get into the romance. Like what you mentioned, Muge or Mio, she's kind of hard to root for Because for the entire movie, she's like, Hinode, Hinode, Hino did this, Hino did that, Hino did that. And it kind of minimizes the impact of the family dynamic that they're trying to put across to the audience because, of course, there's that subplot about her family. But really, all her motivation for the entire film is all about Hinode. Maybe there's a throwaway line at the end of the movie that says something about realizing that her family might love her. But really, for the most part, it's all about Hinode. It kind of got annoying for me. I'm sorry for the term, but the main character here comes off a little bit pathetic for me. When I watched the trailer for this Japanese movie and I saw that there are fantasy elements, this film made a very, very, very huge missed opportunity introducing that fantasy element at the third act. What's more sad is when that third act came and those fantasy elements were really shown on screen, it showed some of its best animation and they showed all these cats that I think if it was given much more time to develop, they would have been more interesting characters than the supporting human characters. I really think that that's a gigantic missed opportunity for them because most of the film they really just focus on the mundane world of Muge fantasizing or drooling all over Hinode. I didn't really like that.
A part of me wishes like they took the route of the Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Fleshed out the world of the cats because I really wanted to see more of those. Like, how does that operate? Like, these humans, they can wear a mask and they turned into cats. And then somewhere in the middle of the film, there's another twist involved. I want to know more about how the logic and how the world inside that cat world operates. But going back to the character about Muge being annoying, I really see the relevance of her family issues here. It's just not executed properly. Like, this girl has abandonment issues and she's trying to project her love for someone. The more that person does not reciprocate, the more that person becomes more desirable in her eyes. So that's like how the psychology that I'm getting on the character of Muge. I'm really fine with a likable characters. Whenever it's a coming of age story, I think it's an opportunity to show maturity and really draw out the strengths and make a total character transformation. It's just that we spent almost 1 hour on the mundane life of Muge. I'm thinking if I'm a kid, I'm probably gonna be bored a bit. The dialogue is not really the best. There are some scenes that I'm wanting for humor. Like, it's becoming a mundane school unrequited crush scenario that drags on for 1 hour. When it comes to the third act, oh, there's something more in here. And I wish they really focus here. There's a moment of epiphany here that happens. One can argue that the message has been done so many times. Message about giving importance on what you have, finding the courage to speak. Which, speaking of, I think there's another message here that will come across mixed for some viewers here. In the perception of Hinode, Muge is actually a confident, self-assured woman, but as we learn, that's only a front for Muge. Hinode uses that, and in effect, the film also uses that as a way to be more confident. I just hate it when people mistake confidence as an excuse to breaking personal boundaries, having lack of self-awareness, because that's what's Muge has been showing on the first half of the film.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you just said, and ultimately it all comes down to execution. I agree, the messages, if you think about it, it's easily perceived while watching this film. It's not really hard to uncover what this movie is trying to say because, like what you said earlier, this movie was clearly meant for children. But the execution is just so poorly done. We spend so much time with the family. In the end, they weren't really interesting characters to spend time with. And then there are some plot elements that are introduced even though it's kind of late to introduce this. It kind of really gives this film a lot of pacing issues for me. And the ending became kind of a downer because there's this moment when all these cats help the main character without spoiling anything, that if we just knew more things about those cats, it would have been a more powerful scene. But because we don't know anything about them, as in we don't know anything about them, it was like, okay, that's nice, they're helping her, okay, that's nice. So this movie is about to end, it's about to conclude.
I think the main detriment of this movie is to focus on its romance subplot, which I think bogged
Yeah.
down the whole movie. I think had this one focused on a coming of age story, and you know, this is just me, but I would have preferred this to be taken in a Spirited Away
Yeah.
path. Like, take her out of her world and make her realize what she's missing out. Give this girl a slap of a reality check of, you know, putting her in an extreme scenario. That would have been a more beautiful coming of age and a more powerful story to tell. I see what Mari Okada and the directors are trying to deliver here. I got them, but at the same time, at the expense of being misinterpreted. I'm really on the fence on this one. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, definitely bogged down by that romance. And I just realized that if you want to get someone drunk, make them watch this movie and make them take a shot whenever they say Hinode, because they say Hinode a lot. Like a lot. Hinode, Hinode. So if you want to get someone drunk, do that. Anyway, getting back to the point, this movie failed to execute in what it's trying to do. It tried to incorporate love, family, fantasy, and none of it was executed particularly well. I would have loved if this movie focused on the fantasy elements of it, because that looked really promising. The animation is great, especially in the latter act, but overall, this one's a downer for me, and that's sad because you know me, I really love Japanese animation, and nothing gets me hyped more than a great Japanese animation film. So I'm going to give this movie 2.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay guys, that's it for our review of A Whisker Away. If you've seen this movie, comment down below what you think about it.
And if you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And as always, we'll see you on the next one. Hinode! Hinode!